And there it is, guys, the Casio G-Shock GW-M5610, which is a direct descendant of the very first G-Shock ever made in 1983, the GW-5000. So as you can see, it's Tuesday, the 7th of August. This is when I am recording this video. Of course, I cannot lie to you because this one is synced to the atomic clock, but not today. I'm gonna go into a little bit more details about that. Of course, first and foremost, let's get the dimensions out of the way. So the actual dial and bezel, if we can call it like that, in height is only 33 millimeters. The width of the watch is 43 millimeters. The lug-to-lug distance, or what appears to be the lug-to-lug distance, is 46 millimeters, and this is great for smaller wrists like mine. The thickness of the case is 12.5 or 12.6 millimeters. The strap width when it meets the case is 25.5 millimeters, and it tapers down to 18.5 millimeters. And here it is on my wrist. As you can see, it fits my 6-inch wrist no problem. Really, it's a great size for this watch and my wrist. It works well together. And here, hopefully, you can see how it sits on my wrist. It's pretty difficult to grab it because it's so snug against my wrist, but there it is. The only thing that I don't like, and this is only because I have small wrist, is that right lip right there, this that sticks out, because you cannot change, of course, the size of the strap. That's just the way it is. And every time I have a strap, be it a rubber strap or a leather strap, well, it's always like that. The strap is always going to stick out like that, and I cannot pull this any further. The keeper right here won't go any higher because now this tapers down, but because it thickens here, well, this will not go any further. Anyway, I don't mind because I've seen my watches on my wrist pretty much all the time like that since I've been a watch enthusiast, and hey, this is just the way it is. But very comfortable, very light. This thing only weighs 52 grams and you can really feel it. It is very light indeed. As you can see, the profile here is, it's not that thick for a G-Shock watch, and you have these little flaps right there which are part of the strap, which help with the comfort. And if I put it on my wrist like that, you can see how these little flaps hug my 6-inch wrist. It's very comfortable, really. So this is a solar powered watch, and the actual solar panel are located all around the dial. So inside the red line, you can see that there's a difference between the color of the outside, which is black, and inside where you can see those panels. See, here it looks all black, and there you can really see the panels. And it's a radio controlled watch, meaning that every single night it's gonna set itself to the atomic clock time. Now, I put it in a box and make sure that it couldn't sync this night so that I can show you how to do it by hand should it not work. So in order for this to work, you have to put your watch near a window, and you have to take away everything that has metal in it, because this will mess the signal, and so the watch will not be able to sync. And the way to do that, well, first and foremost, if you push that button right here, you can see when it was synced the last time. And as you can see, it was on the 6th of August, and we are on the 7th. And if you want to sync it by hand, you have to press and hold this button, and I will come back when it's done. So you can see the RC and exclamation mark indication on the dial, meaning that it's now currently receiving the signal from the atomic clock and trying to sync to it. And also you can see that it says L1, which is the lowest signal that it can get, so I will put it near the window in order to get a better signal. And here, as you can see near the window, it says L3, and that is the maximum signal that this watch can get, so it should be syncing within 1 or 2 minutes. And there you have it. Now it's synced. As you can see, the get is flashing with today's date, meaning that this watch is accurate to the second. And you can either wait to have this flashing indication to go away, or you push this button and you get back to the home screen. Now, a word about the buttons. They are really small to press even with my small fingers, and so sometimes I have a hard time, pushing those buttons to get to the function that I want to get. And that's especially true when the watch is on your wrist and you have to push like that. It's not that easy to grab those buttons. But I found that pushing the buttons in this direction and not that direction makes all the difference. So I'm not pushing that way because this is super difficult, but this is not when I push this way. So if you have the problem, try to push laterally and not diagonally. And so you have this really neat feature when you change a feature of the watch. You have a beep that changes when you're back to the home screen. So you don't have to look at your watch to know that you're back on the home screen, just listen to it. Hear it? That's different. So you might ask yourself, how does this watch know that here in Brussels it's 1:28 p.m.? Well, that's because it knows that I'm in this time zone. So if I press this button, here you can see PAR flashing, and that is short for Paris, which is the closest city to Brussels, and this is my time zone. And I can change it by pushing this button right here or back. And of course I will go back to Paris, but this is how you change this. By pressing the button right here, you can change some other settings, and this one is the daylight savings time. As you can see, it is flashing on the dial, and now it's set to automatic, which means that the radio clock will send the DST to my watch, and this is actually correct. If I press one more, you can switch between 24 hours or 12 hours. I really prefer the 24 hours format. I just think it looks better and I'm used to it. If I can get to change it, there you go. And then you can set the watch yourself if you want to. I'm not gonna do that, but you can see as soon as you do that, you have lost the received signal that was right there, telling now that the watch is back to not being synced. So let me sync this baby again and then we'll continue. And so as you can see, it's back to being synced with the RCVD indication right there, which is the short for received. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot about the battery power indicator. Actually, when I got this watch, it was on high, if I remember correctly. You can actually see that in the unboxing video, but it has never been on medium or on low. And I don't even think about it. It's like I put this on a shelf, it's not facing the window, it's not facing the sun, and it is still on high all the time. I play with the light quite a lot, so actually there is some drain from battery, but this battery has been on high pretty much all the time. So the only thing they say in the manual is that you have to make sure that when you're wearing it, the sleeve doesn't cover the watch so that it can actually grab some sun and recharge the battery, but I never had a problem with this, so there you have it. So this is how the backlight looks. It's that kind of very nice teal color, and the way I activate this is by pressing this button, which enables the light. And there's a very cool feature with this watch, which is auto illumination, where when you have your watch on your wrist this way and then you tilt it 40 degrees towards your eyes, it will light up automatically if it detects that the light is not enough. And it does that, of course, with the solar panel. You can turn that on or off by pressing and holding this button. See, it's gone under the DST right there. I'm gonna switch it back on, and there it is. The only thing is you cannot set the time that the backlight illumination stays on. It's 1.5 seconds and that's it. That's a pity. I would have liked to have the choice between 1.5 and 3 seconds, but hey, that's the way it is. It's one of the cheapest solar powered, radio controlled square G-Shock that you have out there, and I guess that these are some of the things that you have to let go of. So the very first function is the world timer. As you can see now, it is set to New York City with the daylight savings timing on, and you can change time zone by pressing this button. And the only problem with this G-Shock is that it doesn't have 5 buttons, so you don't have the 5th button right here only for the lights, meaning that you cannot use this one to go back to another time zone, because as you can see, it's just a button for the backlight. So you can only go forward, so meaning you can only go towards the east when you press the button. The only thing is you have a shortcut. Should you want to go back to UTC, you just press those 2 buttons together and there you go, it goes back to UTC. But as you can see, if I want to have the New York time, I have to press this button quite a lot. I will have to go all around the world almost to get to New York City. And because The button is not super easy to press. As you can see, it takes a little bit of time to get there. You just don't want to miss your time zone and be very careful. So there it is, New York City again. So you can change the daylight saving time just by pushing and holding this button. As you can see, it's gone now. I'm gonna press and hold to put it back on the DST. This is per time zone, so you will have to do that every time you change the time zone and you want it to be synced to the DST. Moving on, we have the alarms. You have 5 different alarms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is a daily alarm, and then you have the snooze alarm that you can have every single day if you want, and then you have the signal alarm, which is the one that signals every hour. I actually really like it, so I'm gonna put it back on. Nothing special right here, you know, it's your typical alarm on a G-Shock. Moving on again, you have a stopwatch. So very classic stopwatch function. You press this button, you start the stopwatch, you stop by pushing the same button again. When you push the start button and then you use this button, as you can see, it now enters the split mode, and you can go back to the actual time by pushing the split mode button again. And you can use split mode, read the timing, and then stop the stopwatch, press this button again, and then you will have the second split mode, and then if you press it again, you're back to resetting the stopwatch. This is very, very classic. And of course, you have a countdown timer. You just have to push and hold this button right here, and then you can set the hours and the minutes. And this time, this button goes up, and this one goes down. And just like the stopwatch, you start it with this button, stop it, and reset it. And then you're back to your home screen, and this is pretty much all the function that you have with the GW-M5610. So some people complain about the band here because they cannot put a needle strap, and you can see here why. The actual band is way smaller when it meets the case than the actual size when you see it on the other side. But as I don't like NATO straps on G-Shocks, well, I'm not too bothered by that. The only thing that I do not like is that this looks like it's one piece, but it's not. This is part of the case and this is part of the bracelet. So sometimes you can see that gap appear right there and it just doesn't look good. But you know, it's a tiny, tiny annoyance. And most of the time I really do not see it. You have to look at it and actually force a little bit to see it, but it's not an annoyance per se. Some people say that you cannot put this watch on the table, but actually you can. It is even written in the instruction manual how to do this. You just take this part of the strap, you put it in there, and then you can put it on the table, no problem. Now onto the part that I really don't like about this strap is the buckle. I think it looks boring, it looks pretty bad actually. This really doesn't match the overall look of the watch, but you know, because it's under your wrist, well, you pretty much never see it all the time. But I hoped that they brought a little bit more care about this. I would change it maybe with something, you know, that doesn't stick out like that, has a nice, you know, black color, just not like this. It's plain, it doesn't look that good, but I'm not too bothered, to be honest. So let me put it back on my wrist so you can see how it looks on my 6-inch wrist. As I told you, 52 grams, super light and super comfortable to wear. This has been a real pleasure in the hot summer that we have this year in Belgium. And this is why I wore it so much in July. It's a very cool piece. So of course I switched to the Casio G-Shock GW-M5610 so that you can see how it looks on my small wrist. And this is the king of G-Shocks for small wrist because the lug-to-lug distance is so small, it can fit pretty much any wrist on the planet. Now you guys know that I like to rate my watches depending on 3 factors, and these are: is it unique, is it clear, and is it bold? So is it unique? I think it is. It's a direct descendant from the GW-5000, which is the very first G-Shock ever introduced in 1983. That was a revolution back then, and it is still today because the amount of feature and what you get for the money is absolutely crazy. So it's a very unique piece in this sense. Of course, you don't have to get the one with solar power and radio control, but I think it is so cool not to have to think about setting this watch. And actually I use this one to set all my other watches. I don't have to go to the computer again. I will just use this one. It's kind of an excuse to get it, but it's very, very handy, I have to tell you that. Now, is it clear? I think it is. You know, this dial for a G-Shock and for an electronic watch is pretty simple. There's nothing really in the way. It's pretty straightforward. You only get the information that you want and nothing more than that. I just wish that I could see the local time zone and the home time zone at the same time on the home screen, but it's not possible with this piece. Some other pieces do it, namely the one that I just unboxed a few weeks ago, and that is the GW-M5610. This one doesn't have it. I wish it had it, but it doesn't. There you go. This is the signal for every hour. And so, is it bold? Does it make a statement? I would say not really. This piece pretty much flies under the radar. You can even wear this in a business environment, and I think not many people will notice that you have a G-Shock on your wrist because it's smaller, it's thinner, it's a square G-Shock, and depending on where you're working, what is your environment, this might be totally suited to that. So I think what is great about this piece is that it doesn't make a statement. It's not like I wear a G-Shock, it has to be big and bold and everybody has to look at it. No, it's more like I like to have a G-Shock with me, but I don't want everybody to see it. So it's right there, it's on the bezel, it says G-Shock. That's a G-Shock, that's for sure, but it flies under the radar, and this is what I like about this piece. It is so light and so small that you can have all the functions that you need, should you need them, without having the bulk and the look of a G-Shock, if that's what you're looking for. And this is the one I would go if you have a small wrist. I have a 6-inch wrist, and as you can see, it fits me perfectly. Of course, if you want to get one, I'm going to put a link in the description below, and that will help me a lot if you could just go click that link and see for yourself if you want to get one. It's pretty cheap at the moment. You should get one before Casio all of a sudden decides not to make them anymore. So there you have it, guys. Sorry for a little hum in the background. That's a fan that's facing my face. I have to put this to record this video because it's so hot here. I hope that this didn't bother you too much. So please let me know in the comments what you guys think about the GW-M5610. I think it's a great piece, but I would like to know what you guys think about the piece and what other alternatives you have for a G-Shock for a small wrist. I'm really eager to check that out. I'm gonna post way more reviews of watches for small wrists, so if you're interested and want to stay tuned about that, and if you're interested in watches, because we happen to like watches around here, well, subscribe to the channel and check the little bell icon so that you get notified as soon as I post a new video. And in the meantime, thank you so much for dropping by. Stay stylish and keep watching.